Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, front to us, a son was born and a child was given.
I want to ask you a question. Have you got your book? Haile Selassie's Ethiopia Volume 1, The Rise of the Priest Warrior King. I've read the book in its entirety, and I must say it's very inspirational, very informative, and very historical, right?
Them call him Rastafari. When he was born, rain fall from sky. Them call him Rastafari. When he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Rastafari. The lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Them call him Rastafari. Read the Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration for Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England.
There were other significant, things, because remember that the Redeemer in the Christian church, I said he would come from the sky, There's analogies in the Bible about he rides on the wings of the wind. There's all of this analogies, and when we look at the visit of His Majesty, when the people from all over Jamaica country, town, everyone come together and they were looking into the sky, guess what they saw? A airplane. So His Majesty did come from the sky.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Summers on the track.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Panafrican Happy Man. I'm an entertainment attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist. But right now, I'm the host of the Lion Voice. Welcome to the Lion Voice Network. We are moving on, onward and onward. What we say? Forward ever, backwards never. So we give thanks for all the subscribers that have been coming in, the new subscribers. Today, the topic is Groundation Day. What is Groundation Day? Groundation Day is the day when His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I visited Jamaica, April 21st, 1966. So the 21st was yesterday. Today is the 22nd. So we just want to reflect on one of the most important days in the Rastafari calendar. What is their name? This day named so a wrench in Babylon plan, because every time they want to say that, well, the emperor don't deal with Rastafari, we always have to bring up the gold medallions that were presented to the leadership of Rastafari. And I'm going to talk about some other facts, because as an attorney, I like to call this the divine ratification of Rastafari movement in the flesh. And we have reasons why we say that. So we're going to get into all of the things around the Groundation. Also, we have to recognize that it was also the first visit to the Caribbean. However, because of the rise of the Rastafari movement in Jamaica, it was particularly important So we have to, before we jump into the topic, you know that we have to big up the Lion Pride. If you subscribe, you are part of the Lion Pride. And I have to big up the Lion Pride on Patreon. Because why? The Lion Pride on Patreon, they didn't just watch the video, love the content. They decided to invest in the platform. They want to see it grow. And for all of the item who would like to join the Lion Pride, because the Lion Pride on Patreon, any ecosystem that you're building, you have to have your core, your base, your foundation. And I keep saying this is the greatest time in history to ever become a content creator, because we have access to a global community. So each and every one of us as creatives can build our own tribe, our own ecosystem. And then when those ecosystems connect, you have a sustainable landscape which cannot be defeated. So if you want to be part of the core of this platform and watch the uprising as I bring I network to the people, as we bring the issues, as we document repatriation in real time to the continent, the building of Zion on earth. If you want to see all of those things and support all of those movements, we are the solution side of the internet. Join on the Patreon so that we can become a force to reckon with. And the Lion Pride on Patreon, we're going to start having some Zoom meetings when we build the core enough. We're going to interact and we're going to build and do things as a unit. So if you're interested in that, and some of the items in the Lion Pride have reached out to try to see how we can connect, that is the best way to connect, is to become part of the Patreon. With I workload right now, it's very difficult to address individual situations, and the focus right now for all of us as Rastafari creatives has to be the economic centralization of what we're doing and putting it into structures. So, you know, I have to practice what I preach, because I tell my clients this. So it feels very good for I to be able to actually do this in real time. So become part of the Lion Pride on Patreon. Make we build something impressive and strong, and big up those who are already in the Lion Pride on Patreon, but we have to big up the whole Lion Pride. And again, if you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. That don't have no cost. That just means that you see the works, you support the works, and we have an attitude of gratitude for them ones there. Also, do remember, we do have Haile Selassie's Ethiopia. I wrote the book that I always wanted to read. So when we talk about this visit to Jamaica and His Majesty coming, when we talk about the rain falling, when we talk about the sun bursting through the clouds as soon as the plane touched the ground, you know, the chalice under the plane, no explosions. We're going to get into all of the mystical occurrences that took place on this visit. But it all started in 1892 in the mountains of Ajerso Godo in the ancient land of Ethiopia. And I wrote the book that I always wanted to read. These kind of miraculous happenings are all throughout Haile Selassie's life. And I wanted to show the foundations. I wanted to paint a picture about Ethiopia. I love epic fantasy like The Hobbit, like Game of Thrones. So I wanted to write it in that style, because Ethiopia is a land of kingdoms, a land of, you know, war between kingdoms, and, you know, the Lion of Judah and all of these, the Solomonic dynasty, all of these things are woven into the history and an integral part of the history. You know, they've defeated many conquering nations, have fallen. So we wanted to document all of that, and I wrote the book Haile Selassie's Ethiopia. We now have signed copies on the website, so if you want to get your signed copy of the book, get the copy. I feel good to be an author. Again, that's the actionist part. If you want to see something, you create it. And that's what the Lion Voice Network is all about. So give thanks for everyone for supporting the Lion Voice. So let's now get into the topic. Alright, so we're talking about the groundation of Kadamawi. First of all, let's talk about what is Groundation Day. This is what this is called within the Rastafari movement. It's basically the day Haile Selassie touched the ground in Jamaica. And It was a day a lot of things were revealed about the movement, about the strength of the movement, about the African presence in Jamaica, the love for Africa, the Pan-African vibration. Because it wasn't just Rastafari that came out. The Maroons came down, the Abeng was blowing the ancient, bullhorn or that the Maroon used to call into battle and these things. Throughout his visit, I was just reading an article in the Gleaner, they were talking about the Abeng was sounding throughout. So these things are significant. You had Jamaicans that were coming from country and town, all over. People walk all the way from Montego Bay, from all over. Our elders tell us these stories. People walk from country to come to the airport to see this manifestation. This was when the Rastafari movement was gaining steam in Jamaica. The Black Power movement was gaining steam in Jamaica. There was no red, gold, and green fabric anywhere in the island. Everything fell off. Our elders saying all of the banners in the street, red, gold, and green drapes. So you can imagine what Kingston looked like, the spiritual energy. These colors are radiating everywhere, the positive, the upful vibration that was there. Why this visit was significant, and I call this the divine ratification, because His Majesty with this visit to I stamped the Rastafari movement, and it symbolized the beginning of an era, a new era for Rastafari in Jamaica, and it was the end of a certain level of persecution that was, the pinnacle of that was the Coral Garden massacre. But it was a general state of persecution that was happening up until His Majesty visit. His Majesty visit opened a door that changed the dynamic of the Rastafari movement and that relationship. I'm not saying that abuse or abuses didn't continue to happen after, and as a matter of fact, when he left, a lot of men get beat up, broke up, jailhouse, nothing, because of how, the police weren't able to control the crowds while Haile Selassie was there. But it was also the first time that Rastafari were allowed in public spaces, in official state residence. This was the first time that Rastafari was permitted to step into these places. So by that account, again, it was a fulfillment of prophecy, in that the Lion of Judah came and broke the chain. And it was significant because, remember, the Rastafari used to get teased. Your God now come to Jamaica, a foolishness you attack. And then it was also later discovered that His Majesty was invited to Jamaica with the specific objective for him to come and denounce this movement, because the officials were seeing the growing impact of Rastafari at this time, and they wanted him to come and kind of quash it and make it null and void. The opposite happened. He came and caused an explosion of the movement, which blossomed into the 70s, which was a golden era for Rastafari in terms of culture in Jamaica, and which is evidenced by the music and the sound. Let us get forward to the intent of the government. So the government had called, the Jamaica government through the British government extended the invitation. His Majesty was to come. They were complaining about this uprising, and it was not in their favor when His Majesty came, because guess what? His Majesty did not denounce. In fact, His Majesty gave the leaders of the movement gold medallions, and this to I was an act of divine ratification. Again, Psalms 101, my eye shall be upon the faithful of the land, that they may dwell with I. And to I, that is what those medallions represented in terms of the prophecy. There were other significant, things, because remember that the Redeemer in the Christian church, I said he would come from the sky. There's analogies in the Bible about he rides on the wings of the wind. There's all of this analogies, and when we look at the visit of His Majesty, when the people from all over Jamaica, country, town, everyone come together, and they were looking into the sky, guess what they saw? A airplane. So His Majesty did come from the sky. and the elders tell the tale about how they could see the lion on the side of the plane, and it was a mystic because the sky got dark, and then now while they were waiting, and he was delayed, His Majesty. Let's before I get into that, I get excited too, and one of the things when we were at the Nyabinghi House in Washington DC, every year at this time we used to sit at the elder foot. We used to have our ISIS, and then as the ISIS pause and we have time for reasoning, the elders them one by one would give their testimony as what they were doing to the day. Big up Brother Jack, an elder who has now passed. He said how, he was being pressed by the crowd into the bayonets of the soldiers them to keep him back, and OMC His Majesty car passing the corner and His Majesty was waving, and he call out all of the names of the Almighty, 72 names of the Almighty to His Majesty, and His Majesty look upon him and nod his head, and different testimonies we get. So big up Pa Jack, Brother Jack, with the testimony. Ras Iris, we hear from Ras Pido when he was here, Mama Bubbles, so many elders, Irie Lion when he was here with us. We've had Baba Ras Marcus. We were blessed to have so many elders that were here with us. Ones like Bongo Chef and Bongo Tani passing through. So I can keep calling names because, like I said, we were able to hear, and I just want to keep up that tradition, because again, we can't be on a corner reasoning with the youth them and passing on this knowledge, and we're watching our elders them pass away from this earth. So enough of the youths them don't get this history. They may just go on YouTube or on the TV and they see some imagery, but they're not getting the richness of the eyewitness accounts that were there. So we have to keep this reasoning about Groundation Day alive. But the clouds got dark. The people were there at the airport waiting and waiting. His Majesty had first visited Trinidad, which went off without too much itches. I think the grandstand tumbled down at Trinidad and certain other things happened. You can correct me in the comments on my Trinidad, because I do have ones in the Lion Pride in Trinidad, and there's a video on YouTube His Majesty visit to Trinidad. So that was also significant, but there wasn't the overwhelming presence. Rastafari came to Trinidad later in time than it did into Jamaica in terms of the movement. And then he made a brief stop in Barbados before. So they were waiting at the airport because, His Majesty was making these official state visits. And then now they look up to the sky and the clouds got dark. And then they saw the airplane burst through the clouds, and there's the ice money that a flock of white birds came and landed on the tarmac. Many ones talk about the flock of white birds that came, because they're all watching. If people know how Palisidos, they have the viewing gallery and thing, and people are watch. And the flock of white birds come now, and then them say them look up and them see the airplane burst through the clouds. And once the airplane burst through the clouds, then guess what happened? The airplane burst through the clouds. The sun came out, the clouds dissipated, everything does get bright. And then, there was a roar, even if you read the article in the Glean and many accounts online, it talks about the roar that went up like 1,000 lions, when His Majesty came, and they were chanting because the Nyabinghi House was there. You can even see in the official JIS, Jamaica Information Service documentary that they created. They put up you see the placard with the Nyabinghi. There, the Nyabinghi, you see Bongo Rocky, which I had the pleasure of meeting in Shashamane, part of I&I journey. Asian Bongo Rocky and Mama Baby, I were there at the airport. Other ones were there. So again, we've been able to get, and I was able to sit at the foot of Martimo Plano, and we'll talk about Martimo Plano shortly. But I was able to sit at the foot of Martimo Plano before he passed and hear his personal account and him give his testimony of that day to I, on more than one occasion too. So that is part of the special. And again, most of the youths them coming up today will not have this privilege. So I know I have a responsibility, and others who are in my age category have a responsibility to make sure we document and share this information that these elders passed on to I and I. No, the sunlight is there, the airplane lands, and the pandemonium because the soldiers them weren't ready. The viewing gallery knocked down, everybody swarmed the airport. So the plane even had, the propeller was spinning, everything still moving, and the place was flooded. Remember, these are the descendants of the Ashanti, Fanti, the Igbo. We have some Yoruba, some Kikongo. We have Africans from all over, and these were the warriors, some of the rebels. These are the descendants, So when Popcorn talk about unruly, it's very hard, When you look even in the Bible and you hear about Judah and how Judah moved different from Israel. That's how I look at Jamaica. Jamaica, the descendants of Judah. And if you look at the Hebrewism of West Africa, journey of Judah, the tribes of Judah, there's also some anthropological vocative, to show that the Ashanti, a lot of these West African tribes are coming from that same bloodline. How we know spiritually is that the first place to really rise when the throne of David start move through the earth, when you look, put on your spiritual goggles and look around the earth, and as the throne of David is moving through, where was the biggest response on the planet? Jamaica. So same way when David was crowned, Judah rise. So to I is just a spiritually self-evident manifestation. But again, you can read different accounts. I'm giving my perspective, so ones can share their perspective if it differs down in the comments. Down in the comments on the lion pride in this ecosystem, that's where the reasoning is happening, in terms of if you agree or disagree. And we love that. And I try to respond to every comment. I know that the channel will grow to a size where that will not be possible for but I'm enjoying, while it's manageable, to respond to every comment. So make we have the reasoning in the comment section. But yes, so is Majesty coming, is that manifestation of the throne of David connecting with its base, Judah, biggest support for His Majesty, even within Ethiopia. There are accounts that he wept when he came out of the plane and saw the people, and him wave, and he went back into the plane and they couldn't move. Remember, this is a airport with tarmac, but the man them come in there, and remember said this is Rastafari, so chalice, but herb was legalized through the island, and everybody can account for this. Remember, this was a felony, could get you locked up for how much time. They couldn't stop it. While His Majesty was on the island of Jamaica, call it that cannabis was legal. And again, this was another part of the mystical occurrence, because Babylon, restriction and infrastructure fell. But one of the miracles that took place is that the plane didn't blow up. Man were smoking chalice underneath the plane wing, round the tarmac, chalice a bun non-stop. Man bring crocus bag full of herb and different, herb is burning. Everywhere so it's cloud, and then again, when we go to the biblical allusion, he came in a cloud. These clouds, and you hear about the cloud, he ride it in a, Psalm 68. Behold him that cometh by his name, John, all of these things. These were all swirling in the people's minds. And the fulfillment, because even if a man born Jah, which enough man born the sound Jah, and every man is entitled, but the history records that when Haile Selassie came, they did call him Jah. They extol him by the name Jah. That happened. Call it a self-fulfilling prophecy. But we have heard the testimony of the elders, and again, Pa Jack, one of them who say, you call him Jah, and His Majesty. So I look at Jah as just another title that His Majesty was given, and that is a historical fact. That's not I and I making up anything. That's just a fact. And I find when we deal with the facts of His Majesty's reign and His Majesty is much more miraculous than we have to go into mythology. And that's why I wrote Haile Selassie's Ethiopia the way I did. So even though it's wrote like an epic fantasy, I have annotations, I put my citations everywhere in there because it's history, even though it's miraculous. But this was important. So to even get His Majesty off of the plane, they had to go get Elder Mortimer Planner and these things again. At this time, let me paint a picture. At this time, and I don't want to make the episode too long, but you see how much there is to talk about His Majesty visited Jamaica. I'm not even scratching the surface. Me don't go stadium, me no go all of them, JC, him visit all these things, Bruce Colin, former Prime Minister greet him, my family, Jerry Small, was there. All of them things there, So we don't go into none of that. What we are talking about now is just even coming out of the plane. And they couldn't control the crowd, so they had to call a Rastafari brethren, which they viewed Mortimer Planner as one of the men that, they identify him as a leader, but he was just a respected brethren. At that time, there was no leaders per se other than Prince Emmanuel, Claudius Henry, certain other one who were there. Reverend Claudius Henry, some of the earlier ones, but Naya Bingi, them time there is more of a coalition of elders. You had certain ones, but it wasn't no one elder where could sway the thing. And Mortimer Planner would have been in the more Pan-African political, vibration, but he was respected by all of the different Rastafari at that time, and he went up on the plane and he said, I am instructed that the crowd be made calm, and they were able to clear a path, the red carpet get dashway, so there was no walking on the red carpet, no honor guard, no trumpet, all of that get fling away. And this is why, again, someone says groundation, because the first step he stepped down was not on a red carpet for the high and the noble, but it was on the ground, the Almighty step on the ground and shook the whole Jamaica. Jamaica was never the same and still has not been the same since His Majesty touched down. Again, it was the first time Rastafari was allowed in public spaces. His Majesty himself broke that chain, presenting the gold medallions, and the leaders of government were given cigar cases with, that were in the shape of a coffin. And Donald Sang's enough of the man them drop out. So His Majesty, again, sign and symbol. What was hidden from the wise and the prudent shall be revealed unto the babe and the suckling. So His Majesty did not denounce the Rastafari movement. We heard from the elders that he asked, why do they do what they do, and asked one of his advisors to go and inquire. And then when he heard, they told him about the Nazarite vow, they told him about certain things, and he said, leave them, they know what they are doing. We've heard that testimony from various elders, and there's no official denunciation that you can see. In fact, you see Prince Emmanuel receiving his medallion. You see, Douglas Mack, Fillmore, and Varanga, different other ones who got their gold medallions. These men were getting beat up, persecuted for the police. So you can imagine, and it was the request of the Ethiopian government after seeing the airport that Rastafari representation be at all official gatherings, that the Jamaica government had to comply. His Majesty was the only king that ever stayed at King's House. There's so much to the visit, and he commanded the government was at his command. They could not persecute ones for the herb while he was on the island. There's so much, and again, I don't want these episodes to be too long. Bob Marley was not Rastafari at this time, so a lot of ones come to the trad through Bob Marley. Bob Marley was in America at this time, so Bob Marley was not there. Rita Marley gives the testimony. Nana Rita, big up Nana Rita, who has done a lot of philanthropic work over the years, so we give thanks to Nana Rita. But Nana Rita gave the testimony that she look and see the stigmata, Christ in his mighty hand. We never see none of that, but that is her testimony. And, she reasoned with Bob, and that was what, one of the catalysts where helped Bob evolve within his trad. So that is also very powerful. We also know from elders like Ras Iris, Bob used to go down Naya Bingi down in Bakawal, which Bakawal today would be Tivoli Gardens, where they had the Rasta camp. Bob, as a young youth, before him put on locks, used to go down there and seat up with the elders. Not for the elders, them know him well. So, that influence was there before him go to America. But when he came forward and see how the place transformed, of course, it had a major impact. So again, that visit helped with the catalyst of, Haile Selassie or Robert Nesta Marley, who became the biggest trumpet for His Majesty on the planet, even up to this day. Most ones know Rastafari through Bob Marley, and we have to big up the work where he did, and always, on his stage, heights up His Majesty, declare the glory of His Majesty. So we have to big up Robert Nesta Marley for that. But yeah, the visit was so magnificent, and there's so much that we can talk about. The visit to the University of the West Indies again, stadium, Montego Bay. He left through Montego Bay, went through Jamaica by train and thing, and everywhere he went, the roads both sides were lined with people. So Jamaica's never seen that before, and has still not seen it since. So it is a day that goes into the annals of history, and I don't think any world leader in the history of the world have seen something like that. So it's a very mystical, mighty occurrence, and we as Rastafari will celebrate this day forever. And again, it's always, I always bring this up when people talk about the train ride in Canada. People talk about His Majesty denying Rastafari. You have to listen very closely to the message that he gives in these things, because there's never no abject denial or denunciation of Rastafari practice. Yes, he sent the church to Jamaica because naturally Jamaica have the most churches in the world. He wants to make sure that the Ethiopia Orthodox is the bedrock of the society. As an Orthodox, he's the defender of the faith, the fulfillment, we would say, of the Orthodox faith, in the same way that Yeshua was the fulfillment of the Hebrew faith. His followers are not following the Old Testament Judaic law. He elevated them through their chart to what became the Orthodox Christianity. The Almighty is within you. His Majesty said that Yeshua showed us that the temple, His sacrifice made the heart of man the temple of the Most High. So it's an internal fulfillment, and it's the same way for I and I as Rastafari. It's an internal fulfillment. The hearts of the Rastafari movement now is the temple of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. We now have taken on his movement, which was the raising of the standard of living of people, the unification of all humanity, the building of heaven on earth. We have taken on that mandate. He is the head, we are the goody, or what they would call the body, but we would say the goody that is here to fulfill it. And Groundation Day again was that ratification where we came to say, regardless of how things play out in the world, I'm not going to declare that I'm the Almighty, because as a human in flesh, no one should exalt themselves in that way. I am a servant of the Most High, and in doing so I reveal myself as the Almighty in my service, in my works. And we, the people, declare Him as the Almighty. Is the people, is the Orthodox Church give Him the crowning, the anointing of the King of Kings and the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah. It is the Rastafari and the people around the world that crown Him as the Almighty. And these things and His accolades, all of the Masonic lodges and everywhere that He went on the planet was glory, honor, and majesty as was foretold. So we give thanks for the Groundation, and again, the revelation that came out of this small little island called Jamaica. And we want to hear from the item, especially from Trinidad, Barbados, Haiti. If you are any of the Lion Pride from those islands, drop a comment, let me know anything you know about His Majesty visit to those places. I was born in Jamaica at the University of the West Indies, so he visited my birthplace. So I have to talk about Jamaica, but we know he's a greater child. And again, for the Rastafari movement, there's no visit that's more important of the global tours of His Imperial Majesty. That 1966 April 21st visit in the annals, and as we speak right now, Nyabingi is chanting. So we big up the Nyabingi house globally, big up Baba Shanti house globally. We also celebrate the Groundation, 12 Tribe of Israel, all of the Rastafari brethren and sistren. Massive respect on this moment as we come together to again fulfill the teaching and the mission of His Imperial Majesty, and as we come together to tell our own story, because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story, and this is the Lion's Voice.
Lion voice. Well, I am the generation of those that chose to see the face of the great I am. With the Emperor Haile Selassie and King Rastafari of Ethiopia, well, he's the almighty creator, in flesh and in bone, and he's seated upon King David's throne. Well, I and I came to tell the nation on the microphone.
Yo, let them know righteousness is here to conquer. The Bingy King trample down those evilest monsters. Mussolini, he's getting burnt up like ganja. Our nation needs to get stronger. Give thanks, our locks is getting longer. The angel revealed the scriptures, the number 6 verse 5. My antenna channeling the heights of the Most High. Crown King of King, Lords of Lords. Now you do the math. Rastafari, comfort. I and I with the staff. Children of Israel, make sure you step on the right path. It's the 21st century. The wicked about to feel the wrath of the ancient of days. Emperor Haile Selassie, pure in all his ways. That's why I KWASI and I praise the Nyabingi King. Let the children know the salvation Nyabingi bring. Yo, it's conscious hip-hop music strictly for the king. For those who don't know, it's a Nyabingi thing. Hailing the Aya.
Bingy King, Bingy King, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning. Bingy King, Bingy King, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning. Fire, Bingy King, fire, Bingy King, fire, Bingy King, earthquake lightning. Bingy King, Bingy King, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning.
Tell him about Selassie. Terrible and dreadful, with a head full of sheep wool. Babylon, you better keep cool, cause he rules. Earth is just his footstool. You think you somebody, but you're only just his tool. Whirlpools, whirlwinds, blow away their sins. Instead of following the shepherd, they were following trends. We set the judgment, they killed too many innocent. Now they got to feel the wrath of the omnipotent, omniscient king with the scepter lightning. From the birds to the creeping things, all hail him. Selassie, I guide I and I, provide for I and I, live inside I and I, so we can't die. Must live eternal I, up in Mount Zion I, side by the Most High. Aya, Bingy King, King of all kings. Can't forget Queen Omega with the scepter lightning.
Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning. Aya, Bingy King, Aya, Bingy King, Aya, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning. Selassie bring the judgment on my enemies. Remember we be the Hebrew that you claim to be. The game that you play lame to we, cause they put me in shackles and chains, and that's plain to see. They ain't got no name for we. Haile Selassie I strike like hurricane rains off the sea. We still remember slavery, ain't too much change, things still seem the same to we. Black man, your brain ain't free, feel so much pain every time I try to watch TV.